everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to Working for the Rich and Famous podcast. As you all know by now, it's not a podcast to talk about the rich and famous. It's in fact a podcast to talk about careers within the private sector, what you can expect working for ultra high net worth individuals. As you also know, we have a very strict no names policy as well here. So as professional as we can possibly make it. I also want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for all your support. We've had such nice feedback since we've launched. And it's really difficult with these kind of things as to know how it's going to go, whether people are interested, whether people want to be part of it. And quite scary, really, putting myself out there. And when you put yourself out there, you are vulnerable, really, for negative comments or, negative views, but the feedback has been so good and it's been so lovely, and I've enjoyed everything we've done so far. We've recorded a few episodes now, and I'm just loving it, and I'm loving that it's proving to be useful. It's proving to be doing exactly what we set out to do, which was ultimately to help educate and inspire other people within the industry. So we're doing it for good. We want it to be, we were doing it for good things, and we want it to be well received, which it has been. So thank you so much for your support, and thank you for listening. So this week we are speaking to somebody who's done something slightly different. So a lot of what we do at Swan Recruitment is the front of house hospitality, service orientated stuff. And today I'm talking with Anna, and Anna's had such a cool career. She's teacher, basically. She started her career teaching languages in I think ultimately it was the poorest school in Scotland. Very passionate teacher, but fast forward a few years and she's a private governess for some of the wealthiest families in the world. So really excited to talk to Anna and find a little bit more about how she made the transition and what the differences for her really are when it comes to teaching privately and opposed to teaching in schools. So Anna, welcome. How are you?
Yes, I'm very well. Thank you, Philippa. I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. So you're enjoying lockdown over in Guernsey at the moment, aren't you? Not working at the moment?
No. And I've kind of been enjoying it in a strange pot. I don't know if enjoying the word. I've just been doing different things and seeing some benefits of life. And so I've been appreciating the beauty of the island, I would say.
Yeah, good really for you. Well, especially the sort of roles that you've been having, which is all-encompassing, totally immersive, live-in positions. Quite nice to have a little break.
Thank you. Yes, actually, and spend some quality time at home with my family and my mum, and that's something that I hadn't realised. I've been away all these years, and I feel that I've maybe been missing on things I hadn't realised.
Yeah.
So yes, that's been nice, and being away, but spending a lot of time in the island at home. I haven't done that for a number of years now. Yeah, really, since I was about 18. So
yeah, good for you. Good for you. All right then. So let's get down to it then. So we've got a huge amount to talk about in such a short space of time. So let's go right back to the beginning. So what was your life like before you moved into the private sector, and what was it that sort of enabled you to move into it?
Right. It's obviously lots and lots of different things, but interesting relating to what's going on now in the world. I suppose 2008 economic crisis. I was living and working in Edinburgh at the time, and economically there were no jobs. 2008, the city council, little money. And I remember I'd been doing some property viewings at the time. A friend had said to me, we were showing people looking at properties, they'd been out in the Gulf region. They'd obviously done well for themselves. And I thought, maybe go out to Dubai, Qatar, one of these places. And long story short, in 2008, I ended up moving. It wasn't my plan, but I ended up moving to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So that really, I think, in answer to your question, is and it wasn't, I didn't actually go to work for VIPs there. I was working at the British Embassy School there, teaching French and Spanish. So, and it was, obviously we had various members of the ruling family in the school. And yes, and then it was there, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Had a bit of time on my hands in my evenings and my weekends and my holidays, and I started working, doing sort of private tutoring for families. Some of them were international families, people all over the world, and then obviously some sort of Saudi families, and then yeah, and then the cars started getting nicer and the houses kind of started becoming palaces. And yes, so I moved in very gradually, but I suppose working for VIPs and royalty, it's all about getting that experience and getting those first contacts and getting those big references. And I suppose I got them in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, working for royalty, and maybe an easier way in there, maybe.
So you moved over to Saudi Arabia to take a very sort of normal standard teaching job in a school, having worked as a teacher at a school in Edinburgh. So you moved over just as a teacher to work in a school. And how long were you working in the school before you started tutoring for families?
I was there for 6 years before I decided to go into work for VIP families sort of full time. But I would say it was very, very different. I've been working at this school in Edinburgh, actually, and at the time it was, unfortunately, it was in what was the poorest area of Scotland at the time, and the school came out. There was this newspaper article written, I was remembering the other day actually, about how it was the poorest performing school in Scotland. So I went from there. My contract, I actually would have stayed. I really enjoyed teaching there. The children, some of them many of them taken away from their parents for reasons we didn't even know. But it was a very, very beautiful experience working there. And a lot of the children came from very, very disadvantaged backgrounds. But had I would have been able to stay, I would have done. But my contract was coming to an end, and because I was doing my probationary period there, that was a baptism of fire. They needed to keep the post open for another probationer coming in. So so the contract came to an end there, and then and then I moved out to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. It been very, very different school though, because it was an international school. We had children from all over the world. Obviously, we had children of ambassadors and things because it was in Riyadh. Children, obviously, their parents had a lot of them very good jobs. They were there working in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia. One of our main sponsors was BAE Systems, so big petroleum jobs. And then we had some very, very high up members of the Saudi royal family in the school as well. So very, very different school indeed. Very different.
So we actually, at Swan Recruitment, we actually do a lot of recruitment over in the Middle East. And one thing that we spend a lot of our time doing is trying to assure people that actually, like, the lifestyle in Saudi is not what people think it is. Don't get me wrong, it has its challenges, but you must have enjoyed it to have lived there for 6 years.
I did. I had 6 beautiful, beautiful years of my life there. I love that country. I have such affection for those people and that country. I hate it when anyone says anything about Saudi Arabia, because a lot of what I've got and what I'm doing now is based on my 6 years there. So I have I love that place, that part of the world even. But one thing I would say, and I would make this very clear, when I was living in Saudi Arabia, obviously, this was a few years ago. This was before the new rules came in. Women couldn't drive at the time. But I would say I was living on a Western compound.
Yeah, they say that.
I was living with other Western people. I was not living with a Saudi family. Don't get me wrong, I was so fortunate enough to be able to go and visit and work in Saudi households, but I was not living in a Saudi household full time. So
I think that makes the transition so much easier. And you know, I went out in January actually to see Saudi, and I was so surprised with the country. But then, these Western compounds are great. You could be on any holiday resort, really.
Oh yeah, a resort, a holiday resort.
Laying in a bikini, sunbathing, going swimming. So it's not, if you're in a Western compound, you live a very Western lifestyle.
Oh yeah, you could be anywhere. You could be anywhere. So it's got its pros and cons. Sometimes you can feel a little bit trapped, but 6 beautiful years.
Lovely. Really, and so you're teaching in the school. You started to do private tuition. That gives you those sort of contacts, if you like, of wealthy families that are looking for private tutors. There must have become a time where you were doing private tuition alongside your school. There must have been a time when you made that decision to leave the school and move into full-time tuition. When did that come?
Yes. I think I did one role actually with a Russian family one summer. So this was overseas. And I remember the first time I remember them saying, oh, you know, this role could become full-time if you'd like it to. And obviously I knew it wasn't an option. I was contracted to go back to the school, but I remember thinking for the first time, oh, wait a minute, this is quite nice. I start at 10 o'clock in the morning, I wear what I want. And then I just remember thinking, I've got a very good, safe, job with the school. I'm under contract. I just thought, it's different working in the private sector, in that you maybe just don't have that job stability that you would maybe have in an institution like a school working under contract. So that is a huge difference. So although I did think about it at that point, after about my fourth year there, I really just thought, I just want to stay in this for a few couple of years just to get some more financial collateral behind me. Because I realised that, you know, families, their circumstances change, they maybe move around, and sometimes you have to leave a job. It's not within your control. So so that's when I thought about it. I remember the following summer, I had a beautiful summer with a lovely Saudi family. They took me traveling with them to tutor their children and
where did you go?
Do various things. Oh, we were in the Maldives, St. Bart's in the Caribbean, Sri Lanka, St. Martin. So it was amazing. And of course, I went into the family and worked with them over Ramadan that year. So it was at that point, and I remember going into the staff meeting on the what would have been the Saturday morning or Sunday, I can't remember the weekend start, the days, weekends different there obviously. So then I just realised, no, my head is not in this room, my head is elsewhere. So it was then that I decided to I think I'm going to do that. But it was a big decision. I was nervous about it, leaving teaching, very nervous, because thinking, well, once you've left, you know, how easy would it be to get back in again? So I did.
You made the decision, and then did you have a choice of which family to go work with full-time first, or did you take the first thing that came along? Or
good question. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was tutoring in Riyadh. Every family, I was like, please, I need references, please give me a reference. But I was just sending out my CV anywhere, because I mean, I was kind of the new kid on the block, so to speak. Although I had a lot of references and I had my teaching background, I hadn't worked for a family for more than 3 months really at that point. So I was just sending out my CV here, there, and anywhere, to anything that looked appealing to me.
In the area, in the Gulf only?
Let me try and remember. Yeah, generally the roles were in the Gulf region, because it was familiar. It was my area. I'd been there for 6 years. So, and a lot of roles were coming up there that I knew that I would be a stronger candidate for. So,
it's tricky making the move. I think a lot of people listening to this will relate.
No fucking.
It's so difficult. Well, like if someone says, "What do I need to get a job in the private private sector?" Well, you need experience in the private sector, but how do I get the experience in the private sector? And everybody gets given that, you know, break where you have the family that will give you the first, opportunity to go in and, you know, get that foot in the door. So you made the transition. You'd got your first full-time role, living, I assume. Was it as you hoped it would be? It
was better. I mean, it was amazing. It was a huge role. I won't say who I was working for, but he'd basically been the former Prime Minister. So it was a huge role. It was involved one of the largest super yachts in the world. I would take the Amiri flights, some of the largest private planes in the world. A lot of travel. It was an amazing role. But I would also say it was hard work. It was really hard work. It was 6 days a week. That was a difference. Obviously, teaching, you've got your little timetable, your 5 days a week, you've got your weekends, 6 days a week. I mean, I was doing 16-hour days sometimes, and there aren't the set hours maybe that you get when you're teaching. Teaching, you've got your timetable, you've got your hours. Okay, you'll go in and do some lesson preparation and do extra hours and whatnot. But it's you're there all the time, you're kind of on call. So yes, longer hours, just different ball game. Yeah, you're there all the time. It's not as clear cut, if you see what I mean.
You're on their watch, aren't you?
Yes,
that's the thing.
Absolutely. And you're kind of on call, and when you're there, you're there. Even if you're on holiday, it's not like, oh, these aren't my hours at the moment. You're here, you know. So yeah.
How many of the staff were you working with, and how many children were you teaching?
Right, that first role, the family, we had 6 children. Staff, there were tons of us. They were a very, very, very VIP family, so they had a huge staff, both in Qatar, and when we would travel, we would have overseas people.
Other private governesses?
Not other governesses. So I would work with other nannies, I suppose, I was the governess, I suppose, but yeah, other nannies that I was having to manage as well, and go in and manage people that have already been there for like 15 years, you know, and when you're new to it.
So what happens as a private governess then, when all the kids are in school, or do they not go to school?
Different families do different things. Generally when they're in school, you do get some downtime, but there's things to do. I mean, you're not just there when they need things bought for them. One of the older children, I would sort of check work for her when she was not at school. Shopping, getting all their bits and pieces. I don't know, I even have to go and choose a ballet dress or so. Little things like this. There's a lot to do, and I was doing a lot of preparation when they weren't there, so that I could give them my full time when they were there. So
there's the idea then of the private governess, that because I used to go to school and then go home and did a bit of homework. Were you there to support the homework, or are the families just putting quite a lot of pressure on the children to go to school but then still have more lessons at home?
In answer to your question, you're not just there for the homework, and different families always want different things, by the way, so it's difficult to generalize. But don't forget, a lot of them, they have private tutors, so you might be organizing tutors if it's a subject that you can't cover, organizing the tennis lessons, organizing this, these things. And don't forget, these people have got to be paid. You've got to make sure they turn up on time. You've got to make sure the children are there. You've got to make sure the driver's organized to get the children there. So there's a lot of admin, and 6 children, the admin, all the different activities, it does very much become a full-time role. So
it's like you're a PA to 6 little humans.
Exactly, so different ages as well. Our 2 youngest children were at the French school as well, so I had to deal with all the stuff in French, and
busy. That was your first role. So give us a bit of an overview of your career. So firstly, how many years ago was that?
Oh, this was good question. So that would have been back in 2014, 2015 now. So
where are we now? I just think 2014. I just forget where we are now. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And so give us a bit of an oversight on your career. So since from then to now, tell us some of the countries you've worked in. I know you can't give us names. I know you've worked with royals, you've worked with celebs, you've worked with VIPs. You've kind of done it all, to be fair. Annoyingly, we have these things called NDAs that we all sign. Otherwise, this would be a way juicier podcast. But you can't. But I know you've done it all. But talk me through some of the countries you've worked in and some of some cool stuff that you've done.
Certainly. So obviously, after I was in Qatar, I've done stints in London. A lot of these people in London. Did a stint in London over the summer, so that was good. Cool. I got to get to know London well. Abu Dhabi. I was in Abu Dhabi for a few years. Various families in Dubai. Then one of my father started getting ill. That kind of changed things. I started doing more contractual work. Like shorter term contracts for this, and so that's something to bear in mind, that it's when you're working overseas, obviously, and you've got things going on at home, that can be difficult. Can be difficult. I did a great world in Russia. I was in Moscow during the Soccer World Cup, which was amazing. Moscow, China. I've done a few different roles in Switzerland, so in Geneva, in Zurich, did one in Samoritz. Back in Dubai again, did one in the US. So different roles in different places.
Where's been your favourite place to work, countrywide?
I think a lot of people ask me that, and I think it's very, very difficult to say, because you have a different experience in a different place.
Yeah, of course.
So I was in Saudi Arabia for 6 years. So, and then you might be somewhere for a shorter period of time. The role might have been very different. So I think it's everywhere's great, everywhere's got its qualities, you know, and you think, well, that was good at that place, that was good at that thing. So everywhere you go, you'll have
very diplomatic. Well done. Very diplomatic.
Yeah, no, it's true. Honestly, I'm speaking.
Loved it all.
Yeah.
So to the people listening that are sort of potentially considering the move from teaching, so if you would sort of like give us some of the highs, like what are the benefits of working privately, teaching private families? What would you say some of the benefits are?
I actually feel, having gone into the private sector, as you put it, I just feel that I've had these wonderful life experiences that I just don't know how else I would have had, you know, going on some of what was one of the largest super yachts in the world, doing the super yacht circuit, going to some of these hotels, going to some of these restaurants. For me, they have just been life experiences that I don't know how else I would have had and seen them.
Yeah.
So that would be something that I feel that I have got from not working in a school, so to speak.
I bet. The teaching itself, is it as rewarding teaching in a private environment or just different? Sorry, compared to a school?
It's very, very different. When you are working for a school, and to a certain extent, and I don't like to word it like this, but don't forget, when you work for a family, the family kind of, I don't know if this is a great way to work, they kind of own you, one sort of thing. And the children have more power, obviously, when you're working for a private family. You are working for that family, you're working for that parent, you're working for their parents. And for example, and I don't want to sound negative in any way, but a child or a young adult, teenager, however you want to word it, they'll go to their mum and say, oh, mummy, Miss did this, Miss said this, Miss said that. And, you know, yes, so they have definitely got more, I'm not necessarily saying that in a negative sense, but they definitely have more power because you're working for them, you're working for their family, and the children know that. The children know that. So
that's tricky because
it can be.
You have to keep the kids on side, and you don't need to be keeping kids on side, God. But yeah, you do. You have to keep kids on side.
It can be, and yes. So it is a very, very different ball game in that respect.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
So what would you say to not warn people, but there must be areas of the job that are definitely not as glamorous as you would think.
Definitely.
You had to make sacrifices for a career like this?
Yes. I mean, I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm single, I'm 40, I was away, and I just being here in Guernsey during lockdown, I realized, hey, I've missed things.
Yeah.
You know, I've missed things. And it's like, oh, I wasn't here when that happened. I wasn't there when these children were born. I wasn't. So I realize now it's like I've been away and I've missed things and I haven't seen things and I didn't maybe get family time and that other people didn't get. So, yes. So I would say there are personal sacrifices also as well. And I'm not complaining about this, but you kind of need to be single with no dependents. It's very, very difficult to have the other life. Almost impossible, I would say.
You can't be dating.
Yes, absolutely. And you're there 6 days a week. And then I remember my one day a week, it was like, oh, what am I going to wear in the palace this week? And do your washing and things. So so it's more of a life than a job, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. But one you would recommend?
In a number of
say yes.
In a number of things, as I say, I have had some wonderful life experiences.
Yeah.
That as I say, I don't know how else I would have had. But I would say I thought very, very carefully before leaving teaching.
Yeah.
And I would say that it's maybe not as safe. I mean, for example, at the moment, you've got, you know, in lockdown, the teachers have got the teaching unions to stand up for them. Any problems, it's like you visit the family just, no, we don't, your job is not as safe. You don't have that backup. If there was a sort of discussion going on with a child, you wouldn't have a teaching union, you wouldn't have some sort of a hearing. It would be literally, we don't like the way you've done this. thank you very much.
Yeah.
There just isn't the, sorry, yeah, just to be honest, there just isn't that security that you'd maybe get in teaching.
So I think
I know that.
It's a path for the brave.
Maybe, yes. Yes.
Potentially. But I think it's really good to talk about it, because it's so easy when we sort of talk about this world and we talk about some of the jobs, it's so easy to focus on the huge ups to it and, you know, glamorize it, and people are
glamorizing it. Yeah.
It's amazing what you do. It's amazing that. And it's like, yeah, but it's hard, man. Like, and I've given up a lot for it. So it's really good for us to be super open and transparent, and just, you know, really honest about it all, to be like, it's brilliant, but it's hard. And it's just,
you've got to, yes, certainly. Yes, certainly. There's an element of that.
So where are you now? So obviously you're not in a position at the moment. I know you've been doing contract work, which is, as I said before, a great option to do when you've got things at home. But what does the future hold for you now? So where do you see, what's your next step?
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure, actually, if I'm to be honest. I'm thinking about things and thinking about what I can do now. I was working for somebody just before lockdown. I could go back and do that. But I'm just thinking about different things, because don't get me wrong, I've really enjoyed what I done and continue to enjoy it. But I'm just thinking about maybe lockdown has maybe been getting me thinking about, you know, what else could I be doing? I don't know. I'm having a bit of a recess, actually.
You thinking like maybe not even teaching at all? A bit of a break from teaching, maybe?
I could do, yes. I could do it. Sometimes as well, you sometimes feel like you've got to a point where I found that with my teaching, like teaching in a school. I remember thinking, I've taken my career in a school as far as I want to take it, and maybe I'm getting to that point with the sort of VIP work. I don't know, maybe I'll stop missing it soon and want to get back to it. But yeah, I may be thinking, I've done this, I've done that. I feel I'm maybe getting to that point where do I go from here? So well,
you know what, so many, maybe it's just me, but so many people would find this point in their life quite scary, thinking, I don't know what to do next. I personally, I love these points in people's lives. I think they're so exciting. Like, God, you could do anything. Like, you could literally do anything. And I know it is scary, because, you know, we all need jobs and all the rest, but like the thought that in 6 months' time you could be working for anyone, anywhere, doing anything.
It's exciting.
I think that's wicked.
An exciting period.
I love that.
Definitely. And I remember thinking, when this whole corona's lockdown thing started, it was because of that financial crash in 2008 that I ended up moving out to Riyadh. And I had a complete change in my life. So for me, I know that's so easy to say if somebody's sort of having a difficult time or they've lost their job or something, but see it as an opportunity.
Sure.
See it as an opportunity to do something different and think outside the box kind of thing. So
for sure. Well, on that note, we'll sort of leave it there. Thank you so much, Anna. Like, I think that's such an interesting story, sort of rags to riches in the space of a matter of years, isn't it? So
thank you. Kind of, big difference.
And I think people will find it really sort of just really inspiring and, you know, just intriguing, really, to sort of know that this world exists even for the non-hospitality sort of type. So no, thank you very much for coming on. And
no problem. Pleasure.
And then for everybody else, we will sort of speak to you next week. Thanks for all for listening. Thanks for everybody's support. I've been getting such lovely messages from everybody since sort of starting this podcast, which is so nice. I had no idea whether this would be a thing or not a thing. I thought, we'll give it a go. If no one listens, we'll just sack the whole thing off. But people seem to be really liking it. So that's cool. So we'll keep going. I've got a list as long as my arm of people that want to come be a guest, which is wicked. We've got top end chefs. We've got people that have managed private islands. I've got ex-special forces. We've got nannies. We've got more management. So we've got loads and loads of people lined up to come chat. Real sort of different backgrounds. So lots more to come. As we said before, if you are inspired by what you've heard, definitely subscribe and keep listening in every Wednesday for our new episodes. Please come and follow Silver Swan Recruitment on our socials. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Myself, if you'd like to come follow me, Philippa Smith on LinkedIn, please do. And then finally, if you do want to be a guest, please get in touch. My email is philippa@silverswanrecruitment.com. And then those, I think I sort of said this before, if you're looking for work, if you're looking for staff, come to Silver Swan Recruitment. We can sort of help you there as well. So thanks for listening, everybody. Please tune in next week and I'll speak to you all then. Cheers.